Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, I'm bringing you another update on Jelani Day's case as promised. But first, I want to shout out Ms. V over there on MTGV TV for being the first to drop this update. Y'all go over there and check Ms. V out. She brings awareness to a lot of real life stories and much more. But with that being said, let's talk about Jelani's case. Guys, Jelani mom, Carmen Bolden Day, called the town meeting on November 19th and had the pathologist, James Bryant, who performed the second autopsy, speak on the condition of Jelani's body when it came to him. Check this out.
I understand the Zoom stuff. Anyway, I was asked to do a second look autopsy. Second look autopsies are at a disadvantage because I'm depending on the previous person to put everything in order for me. So, for example, if they retain some organs, like they may retain the brain for special studies, then the first examiner sees it, but I don't see it. So that's what happened. There was part of the problem in this case was there were things missing, and I don't know why they were missing. So that was one of the things. And then there was destruction of the body. I could not identify the person. I mean, you're telling me it's your son. But I couldn't confirm that. There was a name tag on the body bag, but there were no name tags on him. He didn't have a toe tag, for example. And he was not recognizable. I couldn't tell how old the person was. And there's just things. It was not a good exam. It was a second look autopsy of the worst kind.
So you couldn't determine who the body was?
Yeah, I have questions about even who he is. I couldn't tell what race he is. I just knew that he had a man's name. His eyeballs were missing from their sockets, and it looked like destructive testing was done. There was his jaw was sawed, and some teeth were missing, and I suspect that those were samples that were taken to help identify him or determine what was wrong with him. But I didn't do it, so I don't know.
But you have never seen this kind of body before?
I'm 50 years doing this kind of work. I started in 1971, and that was the first body I ever had when I was in medical school. And I've never seen one this bad. Basically destroyed.
My God.
I've handled air crashes. I've handled terrible truck drivers running over people, and this is the worst I've ever seen. And I'm sure it's post-mortem, not done to him while he was alive.
So what does that suggest to you when you see a body like this?
Okay, some of it could be decomposition. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Something's popping up on my screen here.
Where do these pictures come from?
I'm not sure.
I didn't do that.
It's all right. Continue.
Okay. Let's see, where was I? Okay. There was destructive. Some of it's destructive testing, and they may have been taking samples for whatever testing they wanted for genetics or whatever to help identify them. But I wouldn't do this. Like, for example, if you need to take a bone marrow sample on live patients, we can take bone marrow by inserting a needle in the hip bone, for example, to draw out the central soft tissue that's in the center of the bones. You get a bone marrow sample that way. I'm being told that the bone marrow sampling was they took the femur out of the leg. The whole bone came out as a means of sampling the bone marrow. And I'm not sure that needs to be done.
Wow. Sister Day, I'm so sorry that we had to relive that and bring that up. That's tough. My God. At this juncture, go ahead, sir.
I could not determine the cause of death. And I'm not sure that he was identified properly. If it really was him that I examined.
Understood.
Can he restate the last sentence he said?
I'm not convinced entirely that that I had the right person, because the name tag, there was a name tag on the body bag, but no name tag on the toe, for example. So they could have had the wrong name on the bag. I don't know. And he was not identifiable. I couldn't tell how old he was. And the skin was off his face completely. And there was just facial bones showing. He was not presentable.
So is there anything that can be done to determine that the DNA is actually his? I mean, I know that they do it. I don't know if it's something that you did.
No, I didn't do DNA. Can they do DNA? I think they can, yeah. From a known sample that's known to be his, to compare it to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it normal to have missing teeth and jaw to identify the person? Is that normal?
Yeah, I've never done that, so I don't think it's appropriate.
Hmm.
Is there a certain agency that you report findings like this to hold those agencies accountable for falsifying autopsy records or anything like that?
Well, the coroners are in charge of the autopsies. It's their office that handles it within each county. In Cook County, it's a medical examiner, and they get first crack at all the suspicious cases.
Y'all hear this? Now, he says he couldn't determine if the body, what nationality the body was, or if it was what color, nothing. You know, if it was male, female. This is crazy. I mean, this is mind-boggling. So it's like, how does Carmen even know what she buried? Like, if that was her son, if that was like male, female, what was it that she put in the ground? Like, this is just weird. This is so mind-boggling. Listen to what she had to say.
And I thank everybody for joining us. I thank everybody that's on social media listening to us. I will give you an update. Just bear with me, because this is the time where I don't have to rush through this, do I, Reverend Carson? I can take my time, right?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for joining us today on Jelani Day's Day. Listening to Dr. James Bryant, it really upsets me. To talk about the condition of my son's body. However, I just need everybody to be aware and to understand, not just because this was my son, but because that this could have been any of your children, how important it is and what of an urgency it is that nobody has to go through this again. So, as you all know, on Monday, August the 23rd, that was my last time speaking to my son. On Wednesday, August the 25th, I received a phone call that my son was missing. On August the 26th, on August 25th, when I received that phone call, that night, I also reported Jelani missing. On August the 26th, I had spoken with the professor or the clinical director that sent the officers to my home. She had given me her timeline and her last contact with Jelani. She helped me on that day to, I wasn't in Bloomington that morning. So she contacted someone from the police department, and that is how a detective was assigned to my case for Jelani. Also on that day, Jelani's car was discovered in Peru. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Peru is a sundown town. If you look up or Google the sundown towns in Illinois, Peru, Illinois is one of those. And a sundown town is an all-white municipality or neighborhood in the U.S. that practice a form of racism or racial segregation. And we all know through history that if you are a person of color, you should not be found in a sundown town when the sun goes down.
Hmm.
Now, my son had no connections to Peru.
Hmm.
He didn't know anybody in Peru. He did not grow up in Peru. So Jelani's car being found in Peru was not something that I would have ever thought that there was a place that Jelani would visit. On that night of the 26th, when his car was discovered, I did receive a phone call. And I was asked, did Jelani know anybody in Peru? I was asked, did Jelani have any connections to anyone in Peru? He did not. That night when we got there and we saw the location of Jelani's car, and I spoke with the detective from Bloomington, the detective from Peru, they had told me that prior to me getting there, there had been a search conducted on that day. They said that there were dogs there. I've also learned that those dogs was from the Illinois State Police. That there was some lieutenant, captain, chief, whatever his title is from the Illinois State Police that was there that day that provided the dogs to search. They had a search team that was supposed to have searched that wooded area where Jelani's car was found. Please keep in mind that all of this occurred at 4:20 in the afternoon. At 4:30, I was given a phone call asking if I knew if my son had any connection to Peru, but I did not find out that they found my son's car until after 8:30 that night. So when I received that phone call at 4:30, the police already knew that they had found Jelani's car. They did not let me know anything. So I was not present when the search had occurred, but immediately when the teacher sent me a news article telling me and indicating that the car had been found, me and my family were on the road to Peru immediately. When I got to Peru, Illinois that night, Jelani's car was in that wooded area. And as I've told you all who accompanied us on that march, see it for yourself. My son did not park his car in that wooded area. On August 27th, which was that Friday, there were the detective from Bloomington, Paul Jones, had requested or subpoenaed phone records from Verizon. He had told me that if he had not heard anything over the weekend, that I wouldn't hear from him until Monday. Me being Jelani's mother, I couldn't wait till Monday to hear from nobody concerning my son. So it was on August 27th that I decided to organize my own search. It was on August 27th that I posted a post on social media to let everybody know I had no idea as to what I was doing, but I needed all of your assistance to help me. And again, I thank everybody that came out to help us. We searched for Jelani on the 27th. We searched for Jelani in Bloomington on the 28th. The following week was on September the 2nd, when I spoke to Brad Jones, who is the detective from Peru. That's when Jelani's wallet was found. At that time, he stated to me that Jelani dropped his wallet, which indicated to me that these people are still indicating that my son would have walked in this town and dropped his wallet on the ground and proceeded to walk to a river. He did not. Jelani didn't walk to that river. So that was on August 20. That was in September when they found his wallet.
Mm.
When they found his body, on that day, during that week, I had friends, I had people in social media that I did not know that were calling search companies to help assist us to find Jelani, because I did not know where my son was. Illinois Search and Rescue was one of those search teams that we contacted, and they contacted Peru Police Department. On that day, Brad Jones had told me that he was going to have a phone call with them to see about them organizing a search. That search took place on September 4th. That search took place because of my persistence, because of the people on social media, because of my friends and family who called Illinois Search and Rescue, who should have never called Peru, but they did, because Peru did not have the decency to call and ask for help, to have someone help them. During this search on September 4th, that's when this body was discovered. They explained to me and my family that this body, they were not telling us that this was Jelani. This body was severely decomposed and was found face down in that river. That this body was missing its upper and lower teeth. That it was a possibility that this body would not be able to be identified by the dental because of the decomposition of the body. That is why we were instructed that we were going to have to do a DNA. And they told me that they would be taking a tibia bone from Jelani's body, and that they would need a DNA from myself, his father, and one of his siblings. That DNA was taken from us. We gave that DNA to the state police on that following Monday. At that time, I was told that the DNA testing would take some time. It would take up to 4 weeks, over a month, before we would be able to get results back on the DNA. So this is why when they put out the first initial press release, that the body that they found was a body in the river, and they were not identifying that body as my son. Please keep in mind that I was told again that this body, because we were waiting for DNA, that the body would not be identified, or could not, the DNA could not be used, or the DNA was not going to, the DNA testing would not be given to us for at least a month. That was on September the 6th, when I was told that. And please bear with me because I'm going through my notes, because I want to make sure that everybody understands me and knows what we have been dealing with and what we're doing. So I need for you all to help me make this make sense. We were, from September 4th, I had contacted, I'm sorry. So when we were told about the dental records and that they were a possibility that the dentals would not be a strong thing with identifying the body, I did tell the coroner, Richard Plock, that I would be contacting a dentist to see if I can locate dental records for Jelani. He wanted me to keep in mind that would not be, the dentals may not work, that we will be solely relying on the DNA. I contacted the coroner on September the 8th. He did not answer. I left a message. I contacted him again on September 10th. He did not answer. He did not return a call. I contacted him on September 12th. He did not answer. He did not return a call. I did not speak until on September, I was told by the former attorney that I had that the chemical that was needed to process the DNA, the state lab did not have. We will not know until September 15th if they would have access to this chemical, because the chemical was on back order. So on September 16th, when I contacted the coroner again, and on this day is the day that I spoke to him, and I asked him why I hadn't heard from him, why hadn't I received a phone call back, and had he, in fact, received my messages about the dental records, and had he retrieved them. His response to me was, he was sorry that he hadn't gotten back to me. His phone had been giving him trouble. He had had his phone at Verizon, and he had not yet ordered any dental records. So this was 8 days from September 8th, from the time I contacted him to September 16th, there had not been any dental records requested for my son. I then asked him about the DNA, about the chemical needed for the DNA. He told me then that they were waiting because he had not heard from the state lab to know if they even had access to the chemical or if they even obtained the chemical. On September, fast forward this, by this time I had then been reaching out to media and anybody who would listen to me. At this time, during this time, I watched the news and I seen that Gabby Petito was missing. I seen that Gabby Petito's mother and her father had gotten the assistance of the Federal Bureau of Investigations to help find their daughter. They had Gabby Petito on every social media outlet, on every news channel, in every newspaper. But Jelani was missing, and you did not know about Jelani, and nobody was looking for Jelani. I didn't know if that body that they had was my son's. And for me, all I knew is that my son was still out there and we still needed to find him. So I was pleading and I was begging for the FBI and anybody to help us. As that progressed, as I continued to make noise and I continued to ruffle feathers, I received a call on September 22nd, first from the Peru Police Department, asking me if I would look at my email to identify some clothing that had been found the day before by 2 white girls. And they identified these girls as 2 white girls that were ISU students that were bored and were wanting to know how they could help find out what happened to Jelani. They found this clothing. That clothing that they found it on the riverbank. The riverbank in which they found the clothing was 1.5 miles away from where the body was found on September 4th. So these clothing that were found on September 22nd was found 1.5 miles up the river from the body that was found on September 4th. When I asked, why wasn't the area searched where the clothes were found? I was not given an answer on that day. When I asked, when I told them that I didn't know if that clothing was Jelani's, that I initially told them, no, that was not my son's clothing. I initially told them, not only was that not his clothing, but I did not know if that was his clothing. They then told me this was Lieutenant, I'm sorry, and every time I say Lieutenant Hocking, I have to remember because he corrected me that day and told me it was Commander Hocking to me. That's what I should identify him as. And they told me on that day, him and Brad Jones, told me that they would take that clothing and they would bag it up. And that if it wasn't Jelani's, they would not do anything with it. If I said it wasn't Jelani's, and I said, wait a minute, I'm not a detective, I'm not a police officer. Are you not gonna just look at it anyway? They then told me that if I wanted them to do that, they would. I shouldn't have to tell the police what to do in an investigation. I shouldn't have to tell the police to check clothing. When I got off the phone with them, I looked at a picture of my son from the day that I last seen him in a picture leaving Beyond Hello. And the shoes that I saw him in, and the shirt and the shorts, those were his clothing. And again, I posed the question, how could they not find the clothing on the same day that they found the body? I then got a call later on that day, probably about an hour later, from the coroner, who told me that he had now obtained copies of Jelani dental records. He's asked me, had Jelani went to a dentist in Alabama? I told him I did not know. He said, well, you should know. It's on your insurance. I said, well, I do not know. He could have. He said, your insurance is Delta Dental. These are the records that we have. We will bring an odontologist that will work late into the night to identify these dentals as your son, if these are your sons. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Why are we looking at dental records when you just told me that this body had to be positively identified by DNA? And he said to me, either you want to know this is your son or you don't. And at that time, when he was on the phone with me, I had my former lawyer on the phone with me and the investigator. And that lawyer spoke up for me then, and she said to him, and excuse my language, but I'm going to be very frank. She said, who in the F do you think you're talking to like that? This lady has lost her son. He still was screaming in the phone. He thought he was still talking to me. She then identified herself. He then calmed down, and then the phone call ended. He ended up calling right back, and he apologized. And then he said that tempers had been raised, and I was screaming at him, and that he just wanted to know, were we going to be there on the 23rd at 9 a.m. to find out if this body was going to be my son. I told him that I would be there. My attorney at the time indicated that she would be there, and my private investigator said that he would be present. On September 23rd, we all showed up. They read the preliminary autopsy findings to us, and they identified this body as my son by the dental records, but they also identified this as my son by DNA. At that time, I'm confused because they didn't have the chemical. And if they did obtain the chemical, it was supposed to take a month or more for them to get all the findings back, because it's had to be going under some kind of it had to go through some kind of process. And that process was supposed to take a month. And, but they knew within 24 hours by the DNA that this was my son. And they read it to us, and they told us it was 99.99% that this was Jelani Day. As they continued to read the information, they continued to insinuate that Jelani had done something to himself, that they did not find any trauma to this body that was found. But please keep in mind, the body that was found was severely decomposed. So I don't know if the external trauma, it didn't have any skin. So you wouldn't have been able to determine if there were bruises. They indicated there were no broken bones. But they were waiting on the toxicology, and at the time, they did not have the toxicology report, so I did not have a final autopsy report. I got my son's body back on August the 27th. On that day, it was sent to the funeral home retrieved my son. He was taken to Chicago, where I had my own second autopsy performed. Whereas if you all know that I have Dr. James Bryant on the phone who done the second autopsy, when I spoke to him, he indicated to me that he asked me, rather, what happened to your son? I said, I don't know. That's what I paid you for. You tell me what happened to my son. He then told me, well, only reason that I can say that this is your son is by the toe tag that was on the bag. He then went on to say that the body did not have any eyeballs. He went on to say that there was the liver, the spleen, and the brain was not present with the body. He said that the body did not have any genitalia, that he could not identify whether it was a male or a female. He could not determine whether or not this was a Black, that the body was a person of color, that it was my son. There was not enough information there, or enough there. And you correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Bryant. He said that if the things that were done to the body were done during the autopsy, that this was a desecration to a body, and that would have been a crime. He said if these things were done before the autopsy was done, that this was indeed a crime, and there was no reason that the police or anybody before them that did not know this. So we then went back and questioned this, and we went back to the first pathologist that done the autopsy, and he then claimed that the genitalia had been flayed. I don't understand that. He also said that the brain was liquefied, the liver was liquefied, and the spleen was mush. That was his explanations for those, forgive me, y'all, I'm sorry, the organs. Fast forward, I had my third autopsy done, where I'm now, Ms. Person, you asked about DNA. I had my own DNA test done. We do not have those results back yet, but I am awaiting the results on that DNA. And because of the things that were said in the second autopsy, because of the things that had happened throughout this whole process of me trying to find my son, that is why I had to conduct the third autopsy, which, because of the condition of the body, was practically nothing that they could see or do, because this body had been cut on numerous times. This body had went through so much that the only thing I can do right now is wait to determine about the DNA. So now we had Jelani's service, and then we buried him on the 19th. I have asked at the time on the 23rd, when they identified the body, I requested that the Illinois State Police take over the investigation. When I did that, the entire room was silent. They did indicate that they did not have a problem with speaking with the Illinois State Police. However, they weren't for sure if they could take over. On the 24th of September, this became a multi-jurisdictional unit, which means that Bloomington, Peru, LaSalle County Sheriff Department, LaSalle Police Department would all be working together. My question that I'm going to pose tonight is, there is no leadership in this multi-jurisdictional unit. They indicated that, I don't know who the lead is, you know, my son's body was found in Peru. His car was found in Peru. I reported him missing in Bloomington. There seems to be a detachment of who wants to take ownership of who is going to say that they are taking the lead of this investigation. But I guess as they want us to understand that it's a multi-jurisdictional unit, that they all are involved, that makes it more explainable or understandable for us to know. They also indicated to me, I've been requesting for FBI to take over. They brought in the behavioral analysis unit from the FBI. When they explained to me that this unit would then analyze Jelani, that means they need to figure out how Jelani thought, the people, what Jelani would have done. I need them to, and in this process, I needed them to not analyze my son, but to find out what happened to him. I don't believe that they analyzed Gabby Petito. They didn't try to figure out what her mindset was. They went out and looked for her. They looked for who did what to her. They tell me that this cannot be done because of the parameters that this included. But as I look up cases like John Benet Ramsey or Stacy Peterson, these people did not cross state lines. They were killed in homes, or their bodies were transported to a beach or water. My son was transported somewhere. Somebody did this to him. So I'm trying to understand the significance of why the FBI cannot be involved, cannot come in and take over. But they have indicated through Peru that they were providing assistance, that they are aware and they are engaged. And please keep in mind that they use verbiage that we have to recognize. I understand what engagement means. I understand what awareness means, but I need them to be involved. I need them to take over, to oversee the case. That is why I'm pushing for this again. So Jelani's car was found in Peru. The wallet was found in Peru. The lanyard was found. The body was found. The phone was just recently found. What I've come to know is that the phone has been, so they tell me, has been turned over to the FBI. I have not spoken to anyone with the FBI to determine if this is a fact, that this has actually happened, because I've been told things that were supposed to happen between August the 25th and September the 23rd that did not occur or happen until September 24th. When speaking with detectives between August the 25th and September 23rd, There were supposed to be a number of search warrants and subpoenas that were supposed to go out for Apple, for Verizon, that did not go out until after September 24th. There were a number of people that were interrogated or questioned only to say, well, Carmen, I just think they were very concerned, or they were very interested, or that they were very concerned, but we don't think that they would be a person of interest to look at. So with that being said, I know that there are things that the police have not done. And if they have done, they haven't shared with me. I'm not here to interrupt an investigation. I'm not here to interfere with an investigation. I've only wanted what I feel was owed to me and to my family, and that was to help find my son, to help find out what happened to my son. As Reverend Wilson, when she spoke, she talked about how the people, there has been a change of guard during this investigation. The police chief that was over the police department in Peru when Jelani went missing is no longer over the police department. He has been replaced by somebody else. The police chief that was over the police department when Jelani went missing in Bloomington has now been replaced by someone else. The police chief in Bloomington, Jamal Symington, when he contacted me, he was also very uneducated with what has been occurring with Jelani's case. He was very misinformed and ill-informed. When I posed questions to him as to why the detective Paul Jones had been taken off the case, he did not know why. When I asked him about the FBI involvement, because he said to me that the FBI was involved and he had been in contact with them, I asked him who was his point of contact. He then retracted his statement and said he had not spoken to anyone in the FBI, that it was the department, the police department that had dealt with the FBI. When I asked him for the point of contact with the police department, he did not know who that was. So I have been given so much misinformation. I've been given the wrong information. I've been given the runaround. Everything sounds like a cover up. And I need answers. I've asked them to help me. When I spoke to Jamal Symington again, he then informed me that I was misinformed, that Detective Paul Jones is still on the case, that Detective Paul Jones has been taken off of everything else, and that his main focus is only Jelani, and that he will be involved with the multi-jurisdictional unit, and he will be focused on nothing but what is going on with Jelani. That was on September 12th. Since September 12th and today is November. I'm sorry, it was October 12th. Today is November the 19th. I have not heard from Jamal Symington again, and every call I've made to Detective Paul Jones has went unanswered. And I'm sorry, I have to retract that, because I did contact Paul Jones 2 weeks ago and he did respond back to me. Prior to that, I had not heard from him since September 24th, when I seen him in the room when the body was identified as my son. As I said again, and I know I went off So y'all forgive me. The phone was found. They have told me that the phone has powered on. Jelani's alarm went off. It is now supposed to be in the hands of the FBI, so we are now awaiting information on the phone. So again, I'm praying that we get answers. The individuals that found the phone, I'm praying that we get answers. I'm praying that every avenue is looked at. I'm praying that every person is looked at. Again, I'm asking everybody that's under the sound of my voice to help me as I continue to reach out to find out what happened to Jelani. That I can, as I continue to push for the FBI to become involved. I need to know things such as why the two girls that found the clothing have now lawyered up.
Right.
I need to know as to why the person, I need to know about the people that found the phone. I need to know, were they questioning what has happened?
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Jelani
okay.
not being here with me. It's one of the worst things I've ever had to go through in my life. The fact that I've been treated like we were treated throughout this entire time that Jelani has been missing has not only been hurtful, but it has been disrespectful to Jelani and to myself. For everybody that's listening, you heard before I even spoke, the people that spoke about Jelani. His mentor from Collegian 100. The cues. Jelani was somebody. Jelani wasn't an influencer like Gabby Petito. Jelani was goal-oriented and geared and career-focused to be a doctor. I raised a great young man. He was a good son. He was a good brother. He was a great nephew. He was somebody that all of you would have loved. Jelani was important.
Yeah.
And so, Ms. Day,
yes, ma'am.
I think that's why it is time for us to make commitments, pushes, as we continue to say, we're on this till we find the answers that you've been demanding and asking for and that you deserve. But I want us to go back to each organization that's on here. We need some firm commitments of, are you committed to push this needle further? We need to put pressure on U.S. Department of Justice. We want to get this investigated as a hate crime. We want to make sure that the police and everybody's got to start asking the questions that Mrs. Day, we want answers on.
This is so crazy because the police wasn't doing anything and still not doing shit. Just seems like there's a lot of trying to intimidate her, not to mention everything thus far that they found was found by regular schmegular people and taken to them. Then to find out later that the girls who found his clothes actually went to the same school. Hell, they was probably with him. that night for what, any of us know. And they, guilt probably kicked in, and, they went and tried to take his clothes to the police. What do y'all think? That's just my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. And the guys who found the phone, what about them? They had some sort of affiliation as well. Like, this is just crazy. And I took note that she kept mentioning, her former lawyer. I'm not sure what happened with that former lawyer, but it must be something, because she's not an attorney anymore. And now Carmen is waiting on a third autopsy report. And from which everything she explained seems almost impossible to find out if it's her son. So I don't know. This is just so horrible. And she had a funeral and everything for whatever it was in that body bag they gave her. Just so very sad to just know, and to be begging the FBI to take over a case is baffling to me. I don't understand why the FBI hasn't taken over by now anyway. Shit, hell, they was on the Gabby Petito case fast as hell. They didn't stop until they found Brian Laundrie ass. Shoot, they still talking about him to this day. So Carmen has a petition out now, to be signed to get the FBI to take over Jelani's case. And it's called Justice for Jelani. I'm going to put the link in my description box to that petition for all of those, who want to sign it, and I'm going to put the link to this video here for those who want to watch it in its entirety, because, I didn't play the whole full video because it's 2 hours long. And I will be continuing to bring you guys more updates on Jelani case as more information become available. But with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And hit that notification bell so you'll be sure to see when I drop new videos and bring you more content. And guys, follow me on my Instagram, Twitter, and join my Facebook, all at SistaTalktv. Bye.